Yes. Sorry, that is my fault. My guest was not late. It was me. And you know, it was because we were nattering backstage. But welcome back to We Are the South Stand. And this is the first of a weekly show. It's been in the making for probably about 3-4 weeks. But myself and DK have both been away. I'm looking forward to this one. We came up with the name together. It's entitled The Blueprint. And this is somebody that I've been aware of on Twitter for some time, although I don't use Twitter too much. But he's got a massive account, to be fair. So salute for that. But also some damn good takes as well. I always wondered as well, the name, the Sheikh, as well. So it is the Sheikh, AK. And I see someone's already said, Mr. Sheikh Mansour is on the channel. Not just yet. But what are you saying, bro? You good?
Yeah, man, I'm good. And I'm really excited to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. And for Darsh Mehta, I'm sorry, I'm not Sheikh Mansour, obviously. But there's a funny story behind that. I just initially kind of just wanted to troll a little bit. Didn't really think I'd have much of a following in the beginning. But, one of the tweets went viral. I even think I had some government officials DM me and say that
for real?
I'd be doing it, so went through a suspension crisis and reappealed and told them I was trying to do a parody. And then I just realized that I'd rather just be myself, but the name kind of just stuck and here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to let everyone know, where are you based? Whereabouts in America are you based?
I'm in New York.
You're in New York? Oh, right, okay. I was just telling you about my friend being over there as well. There we go. But yeah, and furthermore, congratulations. Everyone put W in the chat straight away. Kid on the way.
Yeah, we got a baby on the way, July 13th. Super excited. In the home stretch, so things are a little crazy, but this is a nice, refreshing change of pace from all the baby prep,
Yeah. Do you know if it's a boy or girl? Have you not found out yet?
Yeah, it's a boy. His name is going to be Emmanuel. And super blessed, super excited.
Maybe get Emmanuel, maybe middle name Kun.
Maybe. I'll have to think about that. I gotta run it by my wife. I was thinking KDB, but I don't know how she.
I don't know about KDB. Yeah. Don't know about KDB. Actually, do you know what? Let's start off there. How do you feel on the whole KDB thing?
Oh man, that's a hell of a topic to start this off with. I think I feel like most of the City fan base does, it's sad and there's a lot of nostalgia around it. But when we opened up, you said you liked some of my takes. And I think the most important thing for me is I trust the club. I trust the board, and I know that they may have had some bungles with some transfers and whatnot recently, but nobody is perfect. And the club's track record in recent years speaks for itself. And I think most of the times that we've seen a big legend leave, whether it was Vinny or David or Dino, the club has generally gotten it right.
Yeah.
And I give them a lot of credit for that. And with Kev, it's different because he is the crux of this golden generation, the most successful City generation ever. So there's obviously the emotions are high, but at the end of the day, I can't forget what I've seen, and I don't think City fans can forget what we've seen, just because like physically he's not what he used to be. Does he necessarily need to be that? No, but when you think about all the other stuff that fans don't really think about regularly, like the finances and all of that, and then how do you facilitate kind of this younger generation of City players coming in, and where does KDB factor into that? It just seems like, for all parties, emotions aside, it's a sensible business decision. And as fans, and me too personally, it's like I don't like the business side of it most of the time. But that's why it's not our jobs.
Well, do you know what? It's so refreshing because and this isn't just on this channel, right? I've spent the last couple of days, and we'll get into it later, but on Morgan Gibbs White as a W. As a W. I've just read that. As Morgan Gibbs White as an example, I keep saying, he's not necessarily the player I want, but I do understand there might be a reason with this English quota thing. And that as the shortlist that they've made, as far as the shortlist goes, he's probably one of the English players. And with De Bruyne, the De Bruyne thing, I always say this, I hate to be the boring person on a podcast, but there are financial targets that need to be hit, right? And you know, we're talking about someone that's on 375,000 to nearly 400,000, right? That is a lot of the wage bill, right? If we bring in Wirtz, which we all want Wirtz, and do you know what? It's not just Wirtz we want. We all want so many players this summer. If we want all these players, 400,000 is a lot of money. So I like that you said the financial side of it. We have to get a head around it. Also, I think another thing you said about him being the golden kind of, how did you put it as KDB being the?
I just think he's been like the fulcrum and the crux of like everything good that has happened at City. I mean, yeah, like the first couple of years after takeover were great, you know, 93-20 and all of that. But then I feel like there was like a paradigm shift when we went from that kind of David and Aguero being the main guys to KDB really becoming like the face, you know?
Yeah.
And to a certain degree, like it's interesting to see the fact that he wasn't really a Pep signing. You know, he came before.
Unless what Fernandinho said was right. Yeah. I hear what you're saying, that he was under Pellegrini. He was.
Yeah. And he was just as good under Pellegrini, you know. Sometimes I talk with my friends and we talk about how arguably, you know, the best form of KDB might have been when he was at Wolfsburg. You know, what he did there was insane.
Oh, it's a valid point. His numbers there were crazy.
Yeah, So I just think that all things considered, you know, there was that clip in one of those, I think, Inside City episodes where he was like, basically, I'm a 33-year footballer that's played, you know, XYZ amount of games, and you know his hamstring and all of that. It's, you know, zoom out in these conversations about, you know, how do you feel about this player leaving and whatnot. It hurts, and nobody's saying it doesn't hurt. Nobody's saying you cannot criticize the club. You're supposed to disagree. You're a fan. That's your right. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's always good to add nuance and add context and zoom out of that discussion and kind of see, like, other than the negatives about, like, you know, he could go to a Liverpool or he could dunk on us on another Premier League team. That's a very kind of irrational and childish way to look at the situation, because the club doesn't think like that, you know? Yeah. And sometimes you have to take your emotion out of it. And that's kind of where I am. It's like, it hurts, but I get it. I really get where we are. And, you know, a month or two ago, pretty much all season, he was dealing with a hernia, and you could tell that, you know, just the velocity and delivery on some of his passes, it's just not exactly there, you know? Yeah. So it makes sense. You know, it doesn't
do you know what? I'm the same. And do you know what? It's really interesting with KDB, right? Because I've always said my favorite Man City player is Vincent Kompany. I've got several. So my hero was Uwe Rosler, right? Just because you have heroes when you're young, right? So when I was a young kid, Uwe Rosler was my hero. Then for me, my favorite player of all time will always be Vincent Kompany. It's kind of personal reasons. The fact he was there before the money. But he also, kind of watching him lift that trophy, it was the only league trophy I got to see, was the first one that he lifted with my dad before my dad passed away. However, my greatest ever Manchester City player is David Silva, right? And I've always said, when people say, nah, it's Kevin De Bruyne, I've always said it's an awkward conversation I never want to have, right? Because for me, those two, they're there. But I do agree with you that I would say with a lot of our newer fan base, right? And especially the younger lot. So when I say newer, I'm not meaning any demographic. I'm meaning, you know, an age thing, right? The younger lot, they've grown up knowing nothing but KDB, right? And they've seen KDB, you know, let's be real, in the last, let's say the last 8 years of the Premier League, probably 9. How long has he been at City?
I think 9. I think this is his
9 years. This might be his 10th year. Yeah. So this is probably his 10th year. In those 10 years, he has been, in my opinion, consistently the best player in the Premier League. You know, you've had Mo Salah there alongside him. You've had Van Dijk there. You've had Hazard for a period. De Bruyne's been there for the whole time, seen the whole thing through. And he, like, whether you want to put him as one of the best, for me, he's better than Scholes. He's better than Gerrard, and he's better than Lampard. But yeah, it's difficult. But I've spent this season saying it's time for him to go. Like, the end of the season, I don't want to see him get a contract renewal. But then when the news comes out, it hurts straight away. It's like, was I wrong? Was I wrong? And I haven't even really, like, when it gets to the end of the season, when we see him leave this club and when we start seeing compilations, it's going to hurt even more. I remember the hurt when Fernandinho left. Like, that hurt me because seeing all the... So, yeah, but I'm with you. I'm with you on it. Right. Let's move on. In fact, no, do you know what? There's been a couple of super chats coming straight away. You're getting love already in the comments, bro. So Nadir says, W for Sheikh in the building. Probably don't remember me, but we spoke a lot on Twitter during the treble season and last season. Most well-spoken person on X. I wouldn't disagree with that as well. Wouldn't disagree with the well-spoken side. And of course, Martin from Mancunian's Way saying, great to see Sheikh on, top fella, and big up Daps and South Stand. Massive. Big love, Martin, as always. Just saw this comment as well. Been a City fan since 2002. Is that correct?
It is.
So why Manchester City? Let me ask you that quickly.
I love Sunji High, man.
There we go. There is no better answer than that.
Listen, it's kind of a funny story. Not to throw my dad under the bus. I'm Korean, I'm a Korean heritage, and he's a massive United fan.
Right.
Park Ji-sung, or you want to call him Ji-sung Park, in Korea, obviously a massive, he's like the Messi of Korea. Well, him and like Son Heung-min, Yeah. But at that age, like I I didn't want to do everything my dad told me to do. It's you're a kid, and I didn't really know anything about football or anything. It wasn't even that big in the States. And I remember in school there was a lot of United, a lot of red, a lot of Arsenal, Liverpool, and blue is my favorite color. Blue is my favorite color. So I kind of I looked it up and I was like, what are the blue teams? And it was like, Everton was one, Chelsea was one. I didn't like Chelsea because Drogba used to scare me, to be honest. Like, like obviously great player and whatnot, but something about Chelsea, I didn't like Drogba. And then I kind of just wanted to give my dad some stick. And what started off as like and the funny thing is, I thought Sun Ji-hye was Korean at the time.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I thought it was. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, if you have the Korean guy at United,
I'm glad you said that, by the way, because if I said that, if I said that, I'd get banned.
Yeah. And then they left Main Road, and they got a new stadium, or not necessarily a new stadium, moved into a different stadium, and then little by little, the momentum started to pick up, and then the takeover happened, and there was all that drama with Daksin.
Yeah.
And like the older I got, and the more the internet kind of became a thing, and social media became a thing, it just became kind of an obsession, and by the time 93-20 happened, I was, significantly older. And I just stuck with it. And I'm really glad that I did,
Well, do you know what? Yeah. What? Now your dad must not be happy that you did.
He gives me a lot of shit. I'm not gonna lie.
Because back when you were young, he was probably like, well, listen, if you wanted to support City, you support City. Everything's great this side. But now he must be thinking, fucking hell.
Yeah, he pulls every insult out of the bag now. The plastic glory hunter, all of that, and I just think it's so funny, just because this is a 65-year-old Korean man living in New York. What are we talking about here?
Yeah. And you're going, why did you support Man United, Dad? If you want to call me plastic, why did you support Man United? Yeah, no, 100%. Okay, so this is going to be every week. But obviously, first week, and what a week to start, because to be fair, we've had a pretty damn good week. We've had a good couple of weeks, but good result last weekend. But Villa game, what's your take on it? Massive win, but...
Oh, man, a bit of a massive win. I remember tweeting before the game that we don't have a choice. We have to win. Must win. And, that's kind of a blanket statement for the rest of our games. But, given how Villa have played, and... we've been under the microscope, and everyone talking about the unks and whatnot. There's just so many narratives going into the end of the season, and all I wanted to see was, I wanted to see the boys compete. there was a lot of noise about, the ticket prices and all of that. And we can get into that later. But in general, I don't really care about how we win. And as much as, Pep gets criticism for some of the decisions he's made, our form in the new year has been solid. I think it's 9-3-3, 9 wins, 3 draws, 3 losses.
Especially when you look at the teams we've lost to. That's the key. You look at the teams we've lost to, there's none of those bozo moments like we were having between kind of October and early January. There's been we've lost against Real Madrid.
Well, in the league, it's Arsenal. We lost, I think, 4-0, Liverpool 2-0, and then we lost to Forest 1-0.
Yeah. And that's it.
Yeah, and they're all kind of in the mix, if not.
Well, at the point when we lost Forest, they were above us as well. So it was literally we've lost to the 3 teams above us. So there's it's all right. Are we looking like Centurion City? Are we looking at like treble winning City? Of course not, right? But we're looking a damn sight better than we did. We did probably 3-4 months ago. Yeah. You're right.
That's
the form is
picking
up.
Away from it with especially with Pep. It's like. You can tell how much this man cares. He's not to talk about his personal life, but clearly he's been going through a lot on that side, and he stayed. And everyone was saying, he needs to find a solution, or all this chatter. There's so much chatter around Pep. But when you look at it, you might not like how we're winning. You might not agree with the way that Echeverri isn't playing, Heiss isn't playing. But at the end of the day, it's about winning, and the results in the new year. After all that criticism, it seems to be turning around. He seems to have found somewhat of a boring yet effective solution.
Yeah.
And that's what managers do. The team isn't fully rebuilt yet. So for now, with our goals, all things considered, I feel like we're in a solid spot. And I actually respect the fact that Pep is using the unks and integrating the youth and finding creative solutions with Nico O'Reilly and whatnot. Mateus Nunez, we can go into his performance and his big day as well. But in general, just really creative solutions in a season where it seemed like nothing was really going right for the first half of it,
Yeah. Do you know what? I agree with you. It's still frustrations there, of course, when you see when I see the lineup against Nottingham Forest, I am going to be frustrated if I see the unks. However, if you remove emotion, remove PTSD that we've had over recent weeks, if you actually go and look at the recent form, it makes sense to play him, right? Mm-hmm. Because it is working. And this is a mad thing. I think this is the key. We have to get back. We all want to get back to where we were, right? With how beautiful the football we played was. We all want to get back there 100%. But we're not there at the moment, right? There's a reason why we looked the way we did at one point this season. And it's just getting us in a position. I feel like right now I'm the same as you. I don't care about where we finish. It's about getting that Champions League football so that we can rebuild properly. And then through the summer, look, the club's told KDB he's leaving. The club looks like it might be getting rid of Bernardo. Gundogan, let's be completely honest with Gundogan. He was brought in to be a bit part player. He's played a lot this season because of injuries, right? So do we think that Pep is going to be playing the unks next year? No, we don't, right? Mm-hmm. But I feel like their experience is going to help get us over the line, right? It is their experience that's helping us getting over the line. And he's allowing the middle of the park to be full of experience, but then, he's using, for me, Nico and Nunez absolutely brilliantly. He's using them. Would you agree? He's kind of using them a bit like wing backs. Especially against Villa.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the term or the position wing back, the term is so much broader than kind of just what their role is. You know what I mean? It's like, especially with Nico, I mean, near post finishing, what? It's like, so the thing with the way that I've looked at Pep is always like, we can always put these position titles on these players, right? But their role and what their position is on paper doesn't necessarily correlate with each other. I think sometimes that's lost on people who maybe aren't into the tactical side of things. But when you look at Pep, and especially when you look at the left backs that he's used while at City, were any of them really left backs?
Oh yeah.
Do you know
what? Even do you know what? Even Mendy used to fly up the wing.
Yeah, he
when we did play Mendy,
he basically played as almost like a left midfielder. I was actually talking about this the other day. It's like if you look at Sergio Gomez as a winger, Zinchenko is an attacking midfielder, Fabian Delph is a center midfielder, Guardiola is a center back. Phil Foden's made his debut in the Champions League at left back. He played Bernardo there, I think, against Arsenal.
Bernardo's played there a couple of times. Yeah.
So it's just like it's a fluid system, and it's more about the philosophy than it is about the actual positions. And I feel like with Pep's philosophy, especially with needing kind of size and athleticism at those fullback spots, Rico played really well earlier in the season, and I love Rico Lewis, super smart. But it seems like with Walker gone, Walker's base profile was that of kind of a physical, about 6 feet tall, can get up and down the pitch, firing across, not consistently, but occasionally. And Nunez fills that role.
Do you know what Walker also? Yeah. Do you know what Nunez does a lot? Is that who you just said? Nunez fills the Walker role. Yeah. Oh, 100%. Do you know what? Walker, I feel like Walker did a lot of overlapping and underlapping, sometimes to not receive the ball, just to scramble defenses.
Yeah.
And I honestly do believe that. That's something we've missed this season is runners, right? Just runners. And sometimes Jesus was a great one. Jesus was a runner that often didn't even get the ball. He just dragged players out of position. And
chaos,
Yeah. And I actually think Omar Marmoush is similar to Jesus in that way, but far more clinical in front of goal, right? And if we said Alvarez was kind of like a Jesus replacement, different players. For me, Marmoush is a clear upgrade on Gabriel Jesus for me. But it's all about having runners. And Nunez is growing into it, isn't he? We've given him stick, but he's growing into it.
Yeah, listen, I love Mateus Nunez. I think I told you before in the pre-show studio. I wrote these scouting reports, a series called SHEIKH Scouts. And every summer or every couple of months, I'll talk about some players we like. And when we were linked to some midfielders, specifically Jude, that summer with like Jude and I think it was Rice and Paqueta. I kind of just looked at other Premier League midfielders, kind of established, having a decent season, because we have a trend of targeting those profile players. Like they're at quote unquote smaller clubs, but a better player at those clubs at a kind of decent age. So I thought Mateus Nunez could be one. I wrote a scouting report. And I really liked him. I thought he could potentially come in and do a job in the midfield. I didn't anticipate Pep playing him at winger and then fullback and
I don't know if he did.
No, he definitely didn't. And to his degree, for a guy that is entering kind of the prime years of his career, is used to playing midfield, used to playing a lot, to come in, compete, really apply himself, not play a lot, get all this criticism, and to have that moment against Villa, dude, how could any City fan, as much as you criticize me, the mistake against United earlier in the season, all of that is like, okay, players make mistakes, but he delivered when we needed it, and he deserves massive credit for that.
Do you know what? I said this to a Liverpool fan earlier on, and I was saying it's a joke because I'm very different when I'm doing kind of rival shows on the other channel, Never a Foul, and they were talking about Darwin Nunez, and I said, well, let's use his namesake. I said, in my opinion, our Nunez, Mateus Nunez, has stepped in, and now at Manchester City, however bad he has been, right? Some might say, however little game time he has been, the fact that first season he hardly got any game time, and he's bounced, his confidence must have been so low going into this season. Pep's played him at left wing. Then he's dropped him for ages. Then he's brought him back as a right back, right? He's had the Man United moment, but he's kept going. And I've always said, if he was to go this summer, we owe him thank you for this season that's been a difficult season for us. He's just kept going for us. But he's stepped in and had a bigger moment for Manchester City than Darwin Nunez has had his whole career at Liverpool, right? But And they said, no. What about Nunez's goals against Newcastle?
Yeah.
I said, what? Back in September or October or something like. This is business end of the season, which I've always said is worth double points. This guy has stepped up, and the mad thing is when you look what across from Doku, but it's so important Nunez made that run because. You know what? If it came from the other side, it might have been Nico maybe making that run, right? But none of our midfielders right now can make that run because their legs are gone, right? Mm-hmm. They're not getting to the back post like that. And the whole Etihad exploded. Now the confidence that Nunez is going to carry forward off the back of that, right? Because we've seen an underconfident Nunez. Off the back of that, Nunez has now got a place in all of our hearts, right? Whether we want him to go, whether we want him to stay, he's got that moment now, right? And that's going to drive him on. Anyone else stand out in that game or anything you want to talk about in that game in particular, really?
I think Vardio was really good. I think specifically since he's moved back to center back, not to say that he was bad at left back, but I feel like he looks like himself. He looks like kind of the best version of himself. I feel like Ruben Diaz in the beginning, recently I've been a little critical of Ruben Diaz on Twitter. And, I just want to clarify something that, Ruben is Ruben. I don't have any hatred for Ruben. He's Ruben, he's done everything that a player needed to do, signing for a club. But Ruben Diaz specifically was one player that kind of opening of the game, Rashford, him scoring against City is like, if you're a betting man, it's probably a pretty solid bet to place every time he plays against City. Yeah. And I thought the penalty was a little harsh, but I feel like Ruben's foot speed and kind of just stiffness can work against him sometimes. John is built like a gazelle, and maybe that makes him more brittle. He gets injured more easily. But with Ruben, and when you look at the way that their gait is, the way that they kind of turn and they plant and they pivot and they explode, and even on the ball, Ruben is just a tad below, and the fact that he's so strong, we saw those jokes about I think a year or two ago, Grealish was in a car and he was making for Ruben always being in the gym, but getting up by Holland, So I've been a little hypercritical about Ruben, but I did think that he bounced back very well towards the latter stages of the game. And I think that his leadership is crucial to the back line. And on that note, someone that didn't play, but also is a topic of conversation for me is Kuzunov in that sense.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I love Kuzunov. I think he's fantastic. And in my mind, in 2-3 years maybe, or whatever Pep thinks is best, I don't know the actual timeline. A duo of Kuzunov and Gvardiol anchoring our defense to me is like a very modern, capable, well-rounded defense that has a pair of center backs that has everything you need. Yeah. I feel like Kuzunov, not now, but at his projected peak, is an upgraded version of Diaz. Just as a player, not necessarily as as a leader or anything like that. Yeah. He has captained the Uzbeki under-21 side, so maybe there is a leader in him, but that remains to be seen. But everyone is so upset, that he hasn't been playing. There was, I think, a troll post about how he said.
Well, have you seen the news that's come out today?
Which one was it? The shampoo thing?
Yeah, it's from the shampoo. Well, it hasn't fully referred to the shampoo thing, but basically, I believe it is an Uzbeki journalist. City Extra tweeted it. I believe it's an Uzbeki journalist who maybe has a connection to Kuzunov and has spoken to Kuzunov and basically come out and said, "Look, there's been a misunderstanding. Let me just and it's thinking, I think this is mad that Kuzunov is having to speak about a bit of banter that someone has made about shampoo and Pep, but that is where we live in. He's basically come out and said, Kuzunov, the reason why Pep is not playing Kuzunov at the moment is because Kuzunov has come in and Pep continues to. He's tactically working with Kuzunov on the dressing room. He's got every bit of faith in Kuzunov, but Nico OReilly has come in and is playing really well on the left.
Exactly.
That has meant that Gvardiol has been able to move in and play as a left centre back where he is more natural. that then allows Ruben Diaz to play as a right centre-back, where he is also more natural than he's actually been playing. But Kuzunov is aware that, that doesn't mean anything against him. He's committed, and everything is fine. And the one thing it does say, it says that Kuzunov actually is a little bit he tries not to read social media, but he's seen the story and he's a bit like, oh, this could cause issues for me. These stories are so people, please stop with it. But
poor kid.
Interesting. Right. Interesting what you say though about Kuzunov being able to a more rounded version of him and Vardiol together, because I do hear what you're saying. Kuzunov on the ball, sensational. His movement, his actually passing's very damn good. Obviously, the pace. Then he's got what we all saw before he joined us, which is, he loves a challenge. He will slide in. I just think at the moment with Manchester City that if we don't, so someone said there about a lot of City fans are saying they put Kuzunov ahead of Diaz. Now, I think the importance of Diaz we have to remember is Diaz, as a centre-back, is the leader. He leads the line. Go and watch us without Ruben Diaz, right? No one really knows what they're doing. And it was very similar without Vinny. It was similar, right? That you need a leader that leads the line. Bozo moments. Yeah, I can't really think of too many Bozo moments when Ruben Diaz has been on the pitch, right? It's just people know where they need to be. And come on, if we're expecting Kuzunov to be coming in here and take the place of Ruben Diaz, right? Who's going to lead our line?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. But it's just what we said earlier about the nuance and the context and zooming out. It's like Ruben is Ruben. He's the leader of this team. He's a veteran who has done it all. And if there's someone that Kuzunov can learn from, and also Kuzunov is 21, 22. Yeah. He's been here for 3 months. He barely speaks English. It's just the expectations, man, are just, I get it. I get having high expectations, but for now, Ruben is the guy, and he's a club captain candidate for next season. He's won it all, and the team respects him. Pep respects him. So I don't have any issues with Ruben being the guy. And I think people just need to realize to unseat that caliber of player that has that much credit in the bank. Yeah, as good as Kuzunov is, we need to chill.
That's it. It's credit in the bank, and it is the same as with Pep. That sometimes you have credit in the bank, and I do think, look, we've been bad this season. A lot of our players have been bad, and you look at Ruben Diaz. He's hardly had. Look, Vardiol's been playing left back, so Diaz has constantly had partners changing. And I don't mean off the pitch with his girlfriends. I mean, he's actually defensive partners. Diaz has also had injuries this season. And it is fair to say, just like everyone else in the team have missed Rodri, Ruben Diaz has missed Rodri in front of him just as much as we've all missed Rodri. Yeah. So that it is a thing. Right. So, 3 points. Nico O'Reilly. Just speak quickly on Nico O'Reilly because how good is he, bro?
Man, the one thing that I will always say about Nico O'Reilly is that earned, deserved. This isn't a nepotism academy kid that's Pep is giving sympathy minutes to. This is a grown man playing against grown men, coming in against in the toughest league in the world and thriving in a position that nobody really thought that he was going to play. One of my buddies, Danny, I don't know if he's watching. He, as a joke, he tweeted 2 years ago, and he was telling me the other day, he doesn't even know why he said it, but he said something like Nico O'Reilly, LB Sesh, But again, going back to Pep finding solutions and whatnot, and Nico taking his chance, it's people will say that players need chances, but when you're given chances, you have to deliver. The leash is very, very, very short. And for Nico to come in and to do this, and the thing that also blows my mind is our academy in recent years has kind of made a reputation of developing these kind of small technical players that thrive in small spaces. Nico is a giant. He's 6'3", 6 foot. Yeah, he's a big guy, Yeah. And at one point he was even filling in at center back. So the versatility that this kid has, the calmness and kind of the way that he plays, it's he doesn't seem like a kid. And all this chatter about him getting a new contract and him starting all these games in a row, again, the number one thing that I can say is he earned it and he deserves it. And when it comes to any academy player, any young player, that's it. You're not going to be given anything, especially in this team, in this club. Earn it, deserve it, and nobody will complain. And that's what everybody loves Nico right now, because whenever he plays, he delivers. And you know what's better than that? As a fan of a football club, seeing one of your own thrive, break through, and stake their claim. You know, we were struggling the most. This guy stepped up and delivered. Like that's amazing.
Do you know what, Val? I always use this one player as an example, and I know he's dropped off since, and it isn't at Manchester City. But there's one player that I always remember taking a chance, and maybe it's because he's local to me. He's from around here, and that's Dele Alli. And one of my close friends actually was with his sister when Tottenham bought him, right? And he kind of knew, he was aware of their plans with him. Now, in a summer, Tottenham got a few injuries and Dele Alli got a chance to play against Real Madrid, right? And he nutmegged Modric, right? And he was unbelievable, unplayable that game. So he got given another chance, again, unplayable that game. And that is the key. When you get given a chance as a young player, you have to take those chances, right? You have to, because like, and even more so with this Manchester City team, you know the levels are so high that, you know, if you go back to, remember, what's his name? Forwards, went to Leicester. Oh, Nigerian.
Kelechi?
Iheanacho, yeah, Iheanacho, right. Great off the bench. And then Pep's first season, Aguero was injured. Iheanacho got given, there you go, start. How many games did he play? How many goals did he score? None. Right. And that was it. You know what? Pep has come in. He's listened to the board. He's listened to people saying, you know what? You need to give this kid a chance. Gave him a chance and he didn't score once. Well, there you go. Whereas Nico, for me, every time I watch him, I'm seeing something new in his game as well. You know, his crosses the other day were phenomenal. And I've got to commend Pep a little bit, because when Pep said about him playing as a DM in the summer, I thought, I don't know about that, you know. I don't know about that. I get that you're seeing he's tall and he's physical, but I'm not too sure. And I didn't really see, when he was playing a bit more in the DM role in the summer, didn't really see it. However, when you're playing in a Pep system as a fullback, you're allowed to hit the box far more, right? And that's exactly where all of a sudden he thrived. And you can see how he could be an effective 10 for us. Now, what's your opinion? Are you one of these people that want to see him in a midfield role ASAP, or?
No, I don't really have any desire or rush to fit players in roles or positions that I kind of selfishly want to see them play in. I just, especially with development, I trust the development. You know, I didn't know that he was going to do this, and I think that. You have to be patient with the younger players. You know, you give them too much, then they burn out. You see it a lot kind of with, I think the number one example I can think of is, what's that Barcelona winger? Ansu Fati.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great example.
Ansu Fati to me was like, you know, he was supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread. And now he, you know, loaned to Brighton and kind of just in and out of the team, kept getting injured.
Sanchez as well.
Yeah. It's a big problem.
Renato Sanchez, I think it was. Got way too soon. Yeah.
Just so much hype, and I think that City, in addition to utilizing the academy well to balance the financial side of things, I think they do a really good job of protecting the young players, and not really buying into the fan narratives of that XYZ needs to play. It's a delicate balance, and it's something that I don't think a lot of fans are kind of privy to, how things are behind the scenes. And in that sense, I would much rather kind of trust that, these guys know what they're doing than my opinion being valid, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. However, we are about to move on to your opinion. Two opinions, in fact. Firstly, just a couple of super chats. First one is from Nadir. Appreciate the super chat, who is saying Nunez is a perfect squad player who can fill spots. I agree with you on that. I still want to see him in a midfield role. I think at times this season when we've maybe lacked legs in midfield a little bit, and I think we've needed someone to just pick up the ball from the defence. And I always compare it to a bit like American football, where you just throw the ball to make, or in fact, rugby is probably better, where you kick the ball to make yards, right? sometimes I've felt like this season we could have took pressure off of our defence if we had better runners in midfield to just drive with the ball a little bit. Maybe we will, maybe we won't see him there. And then Professional Idiot, who has said, we want Kuzunov because he was in form and can do the job. The problem is Diaz, like most players, you can't play them into form. Foden is an example, I guess. Sometimes you need to be benched to find form. Diaz is currently a problem. I totally understand that Diaz maybe this season hasn't been in form. And from what I've seen of Kuzunov, I love him. I will go back to the fact that, Vardiol has only just started playing at centre-back for this City team. And I know he's a centre-back by trade, but he's had nearly 2 seasons playing left-back, right? If we were to put Vardiol as centre-back and instantly put Kuzunov as centre-back next to him, I do not believe the line will be led. As in, I'm not saying in the future. I think, look, SHEIKH said it, in the future. It's something I think a lot of us want to see, but I think there's a transition period. And the first thing is getting Kuzunov speaking fluent English so he can communicate, because leading a line is very important. Right. Yeah. So there's two things I wanted to speak on. The first one is something that kind of you brought to my attention, said you wanted to speak on, and that was Tuesday night, obviously, and against Leicester. We've had the demonstrations, the silent demonstrations all around the tickets. And obviously that is predominantly a local fan thing. And obviously we've had We Are 1894 on the group, on the show to talk about it and talk about what we're doing, why we're doing it, what it means. And you said you wanted to talk on it. So I kind of from a fan that's not based in England, a fan that is based the other side of the sea, the other side of the pond, as they say. What's your take on it all, bro?
I think this opens up a can of worms for a much bigger conversation. But most importantly, the biggest reason why I created, the SHEIKH page is because I just felt like there was such a big disconnect between, local, core fan base and overseas supporters. And whenever you see these ticket situations pop up, a lot of Americans in the comments, and I've been one of them too, have always said, £71 is still so cheap. I'm a Knicks fan, and being in New York, and when I go to Knicks games, it costs $300 for an upper level seat, and that's 4 times the price. So it seems like it's so different. But after talking to locals and kind of diving deep into how the culture differs and how economically the countries are different as well, I get it.
Let alone the city as well. Yeah, the city of New York and the city of Manchester. Yeah, too.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like comparing apples and oranges. Yeah. And I think the biggest reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I think overseas fans need to kind of understand that it's different, and that it's not so much about like, oh, well, I pay this, so why are you complaining? Like, of course, I would happily pay £71 to go to a Manchester City game, but that doesn't matter. It's not about me, And I can empathize with what locals are going through, because you look at a club like United, and a lot of City fans, they joke about we're going down that route about becoming like this global commercial enterprise, And there's no denying that City is a commercial giant on the global football scene at this point. But I was talking to another one of my buddies, Tom, who is a local. You actually might know him. And I retweeted one of his posts this morning. And I feel like City recently have, there's all this noise about how successful we are, and the accolades, and Pep, and, the Ballon d'Or winner, and all we're getting so much press, and rightfully we are seen as kind of a benchmark or as a leader on the footballing side and also on the commercial side. Club of the year, all that stuff. So if that's the case, and as far as I know, every season ticket holder that I've spoken to has told me that ticket revenue is not a big part of our overall, money-making process. So I don't think anybody from Manchester City board is watching this show. And if they are, that's awesome for us. But if they are, we have a very unique chance as a market setter, as a trend setter, as being at the global forefront of kind of this hyper industrial complex of football, where we can set the precedent, we can change the status quo. And we don't have to be like every other entity, because if we're talking about numbers and it's not affecting our bottom line, literally, what is the point of hurting the most loyal part of the fan base? It doesn't make any sense to me. There's other ways that we can make money. We have enough investors, we have enough commercial opportunity where we can make money. So find a solution, be the solution, and don't be afraid to change that status quo. Because if we're already in that driving seat, why can't we do that? Like, what is the reason?
Yeah.
There's in my head, and I would love for someone who is listening, or maybe City, to come and tell me, like, this is why we can't do it.
Yeah. 100%. I think that's one of the big issues, is the lack of communication. It's the moment. And by the way, anyone that watched that game, Manchester City, as in the board, anyone at the club, we all watched the game on Tuesday night. It was Tuesday night, yeah. We saw empty seats, right? I actually watched Arsenal yesterday, empty seats there as well. It's midweek, right? £71 for a midweek game at the moment. That's why you're seeing empty seats. Now tell me, is that good marketing? Because I don't think that's good marketing, right? As far as also the season ticket things that we're pushing out at the moment, trying to take season tickets off of people, locals, because you can make more off of other people. That's not on. But really appreciate your take on that. And it is important that we are all seen to be pulling in the same direction, because we all support the same club. It's as simple as that. Now, last thing I just wanted to touch on with you. The show's gone so quick. This is where, once we start getting to doing them every week, we're going to have so much to talk on. I just want to talk really quickly on targets this summer. Do you have any preferences? Do you have any we musts? Ins or outs?
Oh man. I mean, obviously everyone's talking about Wirtz, and he's incredible. It would be amazing if we got him. But for me personally, and I don't expect anyone to agree with me, I'm not so sold on that we have to get the biggest name possible. I feel like as we've seen a lot of teams try to do that. The first one that comes to mind is the Real Madrid Galactico era, and then with Chelsea, not Chelsea, PSG with Messi and Neymar and Mbappe. I don't know. There isn't like a, beyond the names that everyone knows, which would be exciting. I feel like we can find value like we always have. And I feel like to a certain degree, even players that we have right now, I would like to see more from them before we kind of splurge on just more congestion in certain areas of the pitch. Like Wirtz is a 10. Morgan Gibbs-White is kind of a 10, but he probably profiles better as an 8 in our system. And both of them bring certain attributes that would be amazing for us. But then again, what does that mean for someone like Echeverri? I'm not going to say that I'm the foremost expert on Argentinian football, but Echeverri, a lot of hype. By next season, he'll have been here, since January. So I don't know. I would love great players. I would love good players, but I want players who want to be here. And I don't want players. Like, Wirtz gives me a little bit of a Sané vibe to a certain degree, like almost like he'll come here, and then if there's some sort of controversy with the German national team, maybe he'll go running. And maybe that's just me having PTSD, because I loved Leroy Sané, and it really sucked when he left. But something like that. And then also like Ferran Torres leaving for Barcelona. It just, I don't know. I just don't think we should immediately throw all the names out the window, because there's good players everywhere. Nobody, excuse my language, but nobody fucking knew who Kuzunov was. Nobody knew who he was.
Yeah, facts.
I posted about him, and people were like, "You've never watched this guy?" Blah blah. I was like, "Fair, So, we need good players, but also a big part of that is we need to find out who's leaving too. It's really congested at the moment, so a lot of work to do, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, Forest at the weekend. You worried? You confident?
I'm not worried. I'm not worried. I'm not worried. I know that we can beat them. We've done it. You know, obviously they're good, and they're going to give us a fight. And obviously, Morgan Gibbs White might have something to prove as well, which is really exciting from just from a sporting perspective.
Yeah. Do you know what? I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah.
There's a lot of interesting narratives kind of at play, and obviously the fight for positioning in the table, all of that. But I really think that the players are going to be up for it. I feel a certain energy with the team. I feel like the belief is not necessarily like, oh my God, we're going to win everything, but we have to remember who we are, you know. And I think the Unks are a big part of that. You know, even if their legs maybe don't move the way that we do, they've been there, they've done it. This is a pedigree that Manchester City has in this final season run, or the end of the season run, where pedal to the metal, get it done. You know, we've seen players play on basically broken legs like Laporte did. It's like they know what it takes to get this over the line. And if our bar is finishing top 4, UCL spot, winning the FA Cup final, it might sound crazy, but I feel like I'm pretty confident we can do it.
Yeah, do you know what? I actually do. I hear what you're saying as well. And this know-how of what it takes. And by the way, this season is different. We're talking about what it takes, but we're not talking about what it takes to win a Premier League. We're talking about what it takes to get Champions League, to get the job done, right? Let's just say to get the job done. And the job this season is different to previous seasons, but it's still, you know what? Whereas last season and previous seasons, we've been up against one team. This season, we're up against 4 teams, right? To try and do what we're doing. Yeah. And I do think that the Unks are very important in that, because they have to pass the baton on, right? We took that fight till the end off of Man United in 93-20, right? And, you know, Vinny was part of that. Vinny's passed it on to, you know, let's say KDB as an example. It gets passed through the generations. And I think the Unks are important because they're now teaching the new breed. They're teaching Nico. They're teaching, we could even say they're teaching Nunez, right? It's mad that Nunez potentially, from what I heard, scored in 93-21st, right? But it is that this whole, we fight, the baton must be passed on. And the Unks are passing it on. I am nervous. I'm going to be going down there, obviously. I am nervous about Saturday. The main reason, look, it's an FA Cup. And last season when we lost to Man United, it hurt a lot more because it was them. This season, I feel like, whereas last season we had the league, this season, for me, it's all about KDB. And I don't want KDB leaving without that damn trophy. Yeah, I can't have him going out without a trophy.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah. And, you know, the one thing that I did want to say is I saw a tweet earlier that City have now won as many Premier League games this season as Arsenal.
I saw that, yep.
And then
second highest goal scorer.
Right. And then if you really think about it, again, zoom out, context, all of that, it's Rodri went on a 74-game unbeaten winning streak for the club. You know, and he hasn't played all season. So is it so crazy to say that, you know, just that one injury, it was worth the points gap that we're seeing?
Is that Pundit J?
No, I think this was Lloyd. Lloyd's
okay.
He tweeted this, I think, yesterday.
Well, I saw Pundit J tweet something out. Do you know who Pundit J is?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I love his takes. I've heard he's a United fan, to be fair, but I love his takes. Yeah,
he does speak very positively about City.
Very positive about City. Positive about City. But I'm here for it. But as a tweet he put out earlier, is when you break it down, you know what? For a season that, look, we're never going to look back at this season like it was a treble season. We'll look back at this season with horrible memories. But actually, if our worst memory ends up with us finishing in a Champions League place in an FA Cup, then I've had a lot worse memories.
Really not that bad, is it?
Really not that bad. Right. You got anything you want to plug? Anything coming up, people? In fact, let me just share. You know what? I feel like sometimes when I have guests on and I'm plugging them, it's almost like you already know this guy is. You're already following him on Twitter, probably. But I hope you put it in your name.
Yeah.
Just in case you haven't, there you go. Make sure you go and follow him on Twitter. Give him another 1,000 follows. And as this show is going to be every single week, we're definitely going to get more into details on players, because I know that's something SHEIKH can really bring. He does all his research. we're going to be back next week. We will be talking on, I'm just thinking, the Forest game. We haven't got another game after that before next Thursday, if we know we haven't. So we'll be talking on the Forest game, probably cover transfers a bit more. But anything you want to plug or say before we wrap up?
No, I think most important thing is one thing that I did want to say from the Villa game is we all need to praise Jeremy Doku more. Jeremy Doku, I'm not gonna lie. Last season, I didn't see it. You know, that herky jerky kind of like. You know, I was like this guy, but improvement, more consistent, the belief, the relentlessness. I have nothing but amazing things to say about Jeremy Doku at this point. I love him and Savinho as our wing pairing. I think they're built for the future. Have so much room to improve. That's one thing that I did want to say, and then the last thing I want to say is I really appreciate the opportunity.
Do you know what, bro? I can't remember, someone messaged me saying, and I was like, oh hell yeah, I would love to get that going. God. So I appreciate you being here, bro. I look forward to doing these shows every week. And on Doku, just quickly, I agree with you. Doku for me, and do you know what I do like? When you're seeing Pep is in his ear a lot. Pep is coaching him, right?
Yeah.
I do want him to get. I've been frustrated the last few weeks because for me at the moment, I'm saying Doku is our best winger. I understand Savinho probably overall might be a more talented player, and I think long term maybe we'll see that. But I think at the moment, I think Doku's been one of our better players this season. I'd probably go as far as to say he's in our top 5 players when he's got to play this season. He's always impressed me. So I totally agree with you on that. And Patrick, true City fan, if he's watching this, he will 100% agree with you on that. But
jolt of electricity every single time. It
was nice to see that cross as well. That delivery yesterday.
Trivella cross. Insane.
That was Kevin De Bruyne. We'd be talking about it non-stop.
I know. It was so insane.
It does make you think a little bit when you see him put in a delivery like that. You think, okay, is Haaland not making the right runs? Or is he not reading Haaland right? I don't know what it is.
I think Haaland is a topic for another day. He has another level to his game for sure. Even despite the freakish generational stuff that he's already shown. And I think I'm really optimistic about seeing the rest of that develop over the next 10 years of his City career.
I think we're seeing him mature at the moment. That's the way. I mean, the Newcastle performance stood out for me. I think we're seeing him mature as a person, and I think that's very important to us because we've got a lot of experience going this summer, and I believe he's been made one of the 5 leaders of the club now, and I think the experience is stepping up. But listen, really appreciate you joining me. We will be back next week, people. I will be back here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. with LB. So that's going to be another good one. Everyone put W's in the chat for SHEIKH, and we will be back next week. We're out.
Thanks, guys.